Economy is a biblical word. In the Greek, the word economy means to set your house in order. It means to handle your money and your property and your wealth in an orderly, systematic fashion. Economy. And therefore, it is highly appropriate that we in the church deal with situations where morality is involved as far as handling the economy of our land. And so we know that we as Americans, we use and employ a system we call capitalism, a free market. And my thesis is this: any economic system that is not based on a worldview is broken, and the people will suffer sooner or later. Say it again. Any economy that's not based on a biblical worldview, the people will suffer. The economy is broken, the people will suffer sooner or later. Now, by a biblical worldview, I doesn't mean that everybody in that country believes in God and believes in the Bible. But part of a biblical worldview is there is law, there is order, and the principle of the Bible, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, thou shalt not commit adultery. The basic principles of an orderly society, which is a biblical worldview, must be down. Or economy, whatever the economy might be, will be broken. And the people will suffer sooner or later. You have to have that givenness in a biblical worldview. We see that biblical worldview is the basis upon which we have our Constitution. We the people to the people. The Constitution is a contract that the government has made with us and we have made with the government. This is how we operate in a democracy, in a free enterprise, in a system of capitalism. And so we say, well, what does the Bible say about this? This sounds so political, it sounds so governmental. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. If we in the Christian church do not speak on every moral question that comes before people, we are pundits and we are not prophets. And this book clearly gives us insight in such a time as this. Let's listen, and there are many illustrations of this, at what Jesus said in Matthew chapter number 25. Verse 14 following. Again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going into another country who called together his servants and loaned them money to invest for him while he was gone. This is Jesus talking. Notice red letter. He gave 5,000 to one, 2,000 to another, and 1,000 to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities, and then left on his long trip. The man who received the 5,000 began immediately to buy and sell with it, and soon earned another 5,000. The man with the 2,000 went right to work too, and soon earned another 2,000. Sound like capitalism to me. What does it sound like to you? But the man who received the 1,000 dug a hole in the ground and hid the money for safekeeping. After a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to him to account for his money. The man to whom he had entrusted 5,000 brought him 10,000. And his master praised him for good work. You have been faithful in handling the small amount, he told him. But now I will give you many more responsibilities. Begin the joyous task I have assigned to you. Next came the man who received 2,000 with the report, Sir, you gave me 2,000 to use, and I have doubled it. Good work, said his master. You are a good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over this small amount, so now I will give you much more. He made both of these individuals his partners. Then the man with the 1,000 came and said, Sir, I knew you were a hard man, and I was afraid you would rob me of what I earned. Totally false. So I hid your money in the earth, and here it is. And his master replied, Wicked man, lazy slave, since you knew that I demand your profit, you should at least have put it in the bank so that I would have some interest. Take the money from this man, give it to the man with 10,000. For the man who uses well what he is given shall be given more, and he shall have abundance. But from the man who is unfaithful, even what little responsibility he has shall be taken from him. Throw the useless servant out into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Capitalism. There's a lot of myths about capitalism. And we need to deal with those myths before we get down to the truth of what a free market and capitalism is all about. So, we have to begin with understanding these myths and explode them, destroy them. First, there's the pious myth about capitalism. The pious myth. It says, well, it's just inherently wrong for somebody to have more than anybody else. But that story Jesus told is a story of capitalism, is it not? A socialist, if those three men had been socialists, when the man came back for accounting, he would have said, I'll tell you what let's do. We started off with 8,000 together, and we made 15,000, and let's just tell him the three of us have made 15,000. Let him divide among the three of us. That's socialism. That's not capitalism. Jesus is talking about you and I using what we have. Whether it's one gift, 2 gifts, 10 gifts, when we start with where we are, God multiplies the giftedness that we have in every single area of life. That we need to understand. Because there's a pious thing that about capitalism we need to explode. Because some people see in the pious good intentions, I'm going to do something, I'm going to help somebody here, but it has what we call unexpected, unintended consequences, okay? I want to do good here, but my doing good and my high moral principles many times have unintended consequences. Here's a true story, a class in a university, economics professor. First day, they're talking with the students and the professor about the class. He discovered they were all thoroughgoing socialists. So he said, well, what about this year as we take tests? We'll just average a test and everybody in the class will make the same grade. You're a socialist. They said, we like that. So they took the first test. Some studied hard, some studied a little, some didn't study at all. The average grade was a B. The A students were upset. The lower students said, boy, I like this socialism. They took their second test. The average grade was a D. Boy, everybody was upset, but nobody studied much. Took the third test. The average grade was an F. Everybody failed the test. At the end of the semester, the economics professor gave everybody in the class an F. That's the way it works. You see, they had good intentions. We'll all average our grades here, and that'll be the thing to do. But it had those unintended consequences. In 1992, some members of Congress said that you and I, we are buying clothes that are made in Eastern countries, and there are sweatshops there in which children work. And therefore, they passed a law that we cannot buy goods or shoes that were made by child labor in sweatshops in Eastern companies. If we had been in the Congress, all of us would have voted, I'm certainly not for child labor. We shouldn't have things on our back. We shouldn't sell America that was made by children working in unpleasant conditions there in the Eastern world, in third world countries.